Well, good morning and welcome to the Friday talk on the business of geospatial. I was thinking as I was preparing this talk about how I would introduce this. And it's funny, years ago when I was a kid, there used to be a show called Crackerjack and they would always introduce it. It's 5 to 5, it's Friday, it's Crackerjack. And you're all so excited as a kid. You always watch Crackerjack. And as I was thinking that, it's funny, I was driving along, a three-wheeler drove past me. I live in Salt Lake City and I haven't seen a Reliant Robin for ever since I lived in England. So it's funny how these things work. But somehow I was thrown back to England for a while. I've lived in Salt Lake City for 30 years, so I don't know why I'm suddenly driven back to England. I suppose it's in my it's part of me, my core. Anyway, so what I usually do on Fridays, I do a review of this week. And that's mostly some of the LinkedIn things that I've shared, articles and things that have got people's attention, just kind of point to those things that kind of resonate with me and maybe some of you guys who watch this and see that stuff. And then sort of a theme to it. I mean, today's theme kind of rolls on from some of the stuff I've sort of noticed this week. And my title here is Geospatial 2.0, Why Many Will Fail. So let's explore that in a little bit more depth. So first slide. So I'm really interested in Next BillionAI. They're an Indian-based company. I've spoken to them. They pitch themselves as, or their mission is to be the hyperlocal, the Google hyperlocal. And I think that these guys are going to do super well. I think in the Geospatial 2.0 space, these are an organization to watch. Super impressed with the guy that runs a company. And if you go look at their website, they're a very smart bunch. They're doing some really interesting work. This announcement is of some more money they've got to keep them moving along. A lot of interest from folks who know about these guys as well. So Next BillionAI are really worth watching. I'm impressed with what they're doing. I think they're definitely one for the future. An announcement, it didn't get so much attention when I sort of posted it on LinkedIn, but Foursquare are doing some interesting work. They've sort of moved themselves away from their original business model. I remember when they came out back in like 2011. They're really changing the company. They've been making acquisitions. They're primarily the heart of the company is data. They collect some amazing data, and they've realized that and the value of that data. But more than that, they don't just want to be a data company. They want to be a solutions company. This announcement that they've acquired Unfolded is a big one. Unfolded, I actually had some big VCs come to me and ask me about Unfolded. Unfolded are a very, very interesting company doing some fascinating work. Very smart group of people, very much centered around visualization, but I was quite surprised when I saw that Foursquare had bought them, and I'm interested in that mix within Foursquare now. They've got these different pieces. How are they going to pull all those bits together? That's actually going to be part of the theme that we'll be talking about today. So Thierry Gregorius is, I think you're Belgian, aren't you, Thierry? I always thought you were French, but I think you're Belgian. But he's based in England, super smart guy. If you're not following Thierry in LinkedIn and some of his articles that he writes, you should do. He's a really smart guy. He wrote this week, and I'll read it to you verbatim. But according to studies, 90% of leaders regard strategic reflection as important, and yet 96% say they don't have the time for it. So this Friday talk is going to be around strategy. This is kind of a theme. It's really where most of my time is spent and where I think a lot. I picked up on that, and I'm noticing again that the Foursquare acquisition, etc. There's a strategy piece to this. So let's move forward. So I'm going to talk about Business 1.0, and let me just give you some reflections on some of the things that I've seen in my journey within the world of GIS and geospatial organization folks I've worked with. I've been multiple times in positions where I've heard senior leaders spend their time pointing at the opposition and using bad words against them, and basically having a complete centered on who they see as their competitors. So F the competition is something I've heard too often, actually. I have worked with middle managers who use the word tactics all the time. I remember one guy in particular, he was always talking about this is tactical. There was something critically missing in the tactical piece. There was no strategy. Tactics without strategy. I've worked within sales groups that the mission and the goal and the driver is just get out there and sell. Get out there and sell. Not necessarily here's the plan and what we want to execute against for you to sell. Just get out there and sell. I've worked with marketing departments that are very centered on their products. Let us tell you all about how great our product is and how our customers talk about how great our products are. I've worked with product people that are centered on this new feature. No reasons as to why that new feature should be added. And you'll notice in that sentence there, I think customers will love this new feature. The I think piece of that is hugely problematic. So let's have a reality check. I'm calling that business 1.0, and there are things that I've seen in my 25 years working in the geospatial industry, things that I've watched and at times be horrified by. But without a good plan, one, you're prepared to adjust as you execute, and I will underline that, as you execute. One built around customers' needs, you'll fail. And I go back to Thierry's comment there. If you're, as a leader, only focused on the day-to-day operations of your business, if that's the only time that you make for your day is the day-to-day operations, the long-term future of your organization is at question. I will say that. And it's not just in our world, it's in general, because we are living through a dramatic change. That changes that, I mean, I sometimes write, and I've mentioned it before in these talks, it's often mentioned as a fourth industrial revolution, industry 4.0. Automation is essentially kind of what we're talking about here. So those that kind of talk about geospatial 2.0, and I'm interested to see that there are more and more people who are referenced back to that kind of idea that we've now collecting lots of new data, a lot of it location-based data, and we can now process it with AI. What do we do next? We live between two worlds. We live between the 1.0 world, where there's a business-centric approach, which was how we used to do things, where we had an expert in the middle who processed the data and delivered often a map, to this new world where we've got lots of data, dynamic and static, we can process. It doesn't take the expert out of the mix, but the focus of the expert is actually to take action based on that, what they're learning from the data and from AI helping to narrow down the options. So I'm going to go back to the plan here. Without a good plan and without a move forward into what is this new world, companies will either have flat sales or declining sales instead of taking advantage of what is an incredible new opportunity. So new means in the geospatial 2.0 world, it means new customers, it means new markets, and it means new challenges. New, and new. So how are we going to do that? I would argue you need to prioritize strategy. If senior leaders are pointing at their competitors and don't have their own plan, they're fixated on their competition, that's not a good place to be. Strategy is all around sitting and making a plan and executing against that plan. So it really requires you to have the right people in the room. It's no good having the BS merchants in the room. It's no good having the people in the room that are looking backwards and are scared of the future. It's about having the right people in the room that understand where we've been. So we learn from the past, but we don't copy it. Again, we can look at the geospatial 1.0 world, primarily focused in GIS departments and remote sensing departments. That's where it's being sold into. Again, I'm repeating myself, but it's well worth talking about. The strategy of organizations in 1.0 was incredibly successful. They provided software into the universities to folks like me. I learned that software and I applied that software when I went into the public sector and into a GIS department. That was good then, but now things have changed. So we can't use that model anymore. We have to use a new model. So we learn from that. We learn the approaches that we took and we build a different plan. And that requires the right people. And I'll self-promote. I'm sorry, I don't generally self-promote. But I generally sit in the room as one person that knows where we've been and is looking to the future and understands it. So you don't just need people like me in the room, but you need a combination of people there, that synergy that can actually look forward and understand where we've been, where we're going, and build a plan around that. And remember, everything starts and ends with the customer. No plan ever works unless you're building something that a customer has. And I spoke about this on Tuesday in my earlier talk, validated. So have you validated the problem? Have you validated the solution? Have you built a communication mechanism through marketing and sales, which is focused around the story that you're trying to tell, that problem to solution story? So you have to have that underlying strategy, that plan to execute, and it feeds through all the departments. In sales, sales have to be guided by that. Marketing have to be guided by that. Those that are building products have to be guided by that. Those that are delivering services have to be guided by that. And if you're not prioritizing that, then your long-term future is at question, and you're not going to take advantage of the amazing opportunities that are ahead. And nobody has an answer to this yet. So I will end the talk just by showing you the iPhone again. I talk about the iPhone, but think about the iPhone. Think about the success of the iPhone, how much of a leap it was. I remember actually when I set up Web Map Solutions, it was because I saw mobile devices. I thought, oh my gosh, location data is going to be very important, and it is. But think of the process to get to a new technology. The iPhone was marketed and sold against a plan. Steve Jobs had a vision. He built a strategy. And I'm not going to overstate Steve Jobs. I think there's a bit too much that's spoken about with him, but I do think the process of arriving at this amazing, world-changing mobile device is phenomenal. We're in the same place in geospatial. We've lived in a world prior to the launch of these mobile devices. How do we now get location data, location technology out there to solve problems that we know need solutions? So we need to get in front of those people that don't understand the technology, that really have a problem, the customers, understand that problem, and talk to them about solutions and how we can take them on that journey to a solution, just exactly like the iPhone. So there's my Friday talk. My contact information isn't there. There it is. So if you don't agree with me, if you've got opinions, if you want me to talk about something in this that's a burning issue for you that resonates with me, you can email me at that particular address. If you want to pull me into those strategy meetings, that's my whole thing. That's my purpose and my why. My belief is that we've got a chasm to cross here to get to that next phase. And I think lots of people will fail because they won't do the things that we've just spoken about here. They won't build a strategy and execute it and adjust that strategy in an iterative way. All right, good stuff. That's Friday. Have a great weekend. Talk next week. Thanks for watching.